What's up guys, TommieBAcademy here, and today we're trying to do something absolutely special. I'm gonna try to hit some big jumps. I'm gonna try to overcome my fear of big jumps because they just freak me out. And then I'm also gonna teach you guys how to hit the jumps, and we're gonna do more of a vlog style video. I got my boy Sean here. We also have limited sun, so we're trying to get as much done as we can. So if you're enjoying the content at all, definitely give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Also, join my live stream every single Tuesday. You want to come hang out, come vibe, come get to know me, I get to know you. We get to talk nerd about snowboarding. So if you have any questions, that is a great opportunity to connect. Now, when it comes to hitting jumps, there's a fine line of hitting the jumps way too early in the morning where they're super icy. And then of course, if it's too slow in the afternoon, it becomes a problem. But what Sean and I do is about every single morning, we come up and we hit the first large jump. And then depends on how the first large jump goes, we might hit the second, we might hit the third. But it's also just a big mental hurdle. So when I was 17 years old, I broke my back and it really freaked me out. I became very terrified of large jumps. Now my goal this season has been to just hit the large jumps every single day, even if it's one time. And obviously I can't hit them every day, but that's the goal. Sometimes the jumps are closed because it's too snowing. Thing that has helped me a lot is just hitting them all the time to build that comfort level and to make that comfort level so much higher. So we're gonna go scope out the jumps, but before we do, we're gonna go hit some rails and see how the overall vibe of the park feels. One of my absolute favorite things about showing up here in the morning is you get these perfectly groomed, smooth lines into the jump. The double-edged sword is you have no idea what the speed is. You really got to calculate that yourself. Also, super exciting announcement. I am starting a goggle company. Some of you guys already know that I'm starting a goggle company, but we've officially came up with the name BENETEK. I'm super hyped on that. Also, big shout out to for creating this amazing logo. Hillary has absolutely crushed it. I'm so pumped. So if you guys want to grab your pair of goggles, I am starting a Kickstarter campaign, which is going to be linked down below. If you guys are looking for goggles next year, what I'm going to do is make goggles that are high quality, magnetic, interchangeable lenses. And the lenses are going to be from Zeiss. So a couple other top brands are using them. So I'm piggybacking on those quality lenses to make like the sickest goggles possible. So I'm really excited about that. It's gonna be really fun. So jump in the Kickstarter campaign, and if you're watching this way after this video is released, look at the link below, shopbenetek.com. It's gonna be the place to go. All right guys, let's get back at it. Here in a little bit, we're gonna be discussing how I actually progress through large jumps, but for now, we're just gonna hit some jumps and just see how they feel. And wish me luck. So, truth be told, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. This jump, number 3, is always like freaked me the freak out because it's the biggest jump in the park. You roll up and jump 1, not so bad, right? It's a big jump, but it's the first one. You set the tone. Jump 2, woo, we're stepping up. We're stepping it up a lot, but we're not hitting that ultimate like kit and caboodle type of thing. And I ended up hitting the jump 3 when it's at its biggest, at its prime. I did not get it on video. Sean was here. I do have witnesses, but I will admit this jump 3, the largest jump here, has definitely changed. It's definitely been toned down a lot. And I don't want to front and just say, oh, I hit the biggest jump. I have hit it when it was at its peak, but they have toned it down. But still, there's that anxiety of the 3rd jump. While the sun is here, we're just gonna rush to the bottom. I'll see you guys at the top of the jump line. So the way the weather is looking, guys, it's a little wild out here, and I've been trying to make this video for a long time, but the weather just has not been on point. So we just got to take advantage of it while we can. Obviously, ideally in the perfect world, we'll be able to just like test this all day, but here we are. Sean's gonna head down to the bottom to make sure we get the shot, make sure I hit this, and don't be a bot. Alright, so I know you guys are gonna roast me in the comments and saying I didn't grab, that wasn't the cleanest, and for me, I'm okay with that for now, right? My goal is to be comfortable hitting that jump, and if I gotta look a little funky and dial in my body positions to build my confidence, that's what you gotta do, right? What's the risk versus reward? And that may be very relevant to you guys. So for me, it's more of a self-accomplishment. I want to be at that level of hitting features that big constantly without having to have that fear. And again, that fear, overcoming that fear, is about putting myself in the right body positions, putting myself in the right mindset, choosing the right day to make sure that I'm feeling good, that the feature's right, and then also having a buddy who's there with you in case anything happens. They can, like, you know, they got your back. And Sean actually has been a massive inspiration to me this season. He's hit that jump effortlessly all season, like no big deal, and I'm like mental and freaked out about it, and he's just like sending it in like snowy crazy conditions. I'm like, you're gnarly. So big ups to Sean for helping me like handle this. And again, I have hit this one, it was way bigger, but it's still nice just to be able to hit that jump. Good thing we got that out of the way before that got in the way. Rip. Got a nice little knuckle in that one. So I'm outside the doctor's office. I had a MRI probably about 2 weeks ago, and then I'm having my follow-up appointment to see exactly what I need to do for my hip and see how bad it is. I know it's a detached labrum, but like, what does that really mean? So we're about to go check out what this is, and hopefully they can let me film. Fingers crossed.
The people what I go through Yeah, this all started about 5 years ago. Is that correct?
I did a 360 off a rail, and then I just drove my back knee over my toe to stop the rotation and just felt something. So it's a pretty constant pain all the time. Squatting hurts, doing sit-ups or like leg raises, that constant tension, that hurts a lot. But the other day I dropped from like 15 feet to flat and doesn't make it worse.
Okay, what you're describing sounds pretty typical here. Let me have you slide back if you don't mind. So you do have a pretty significant labral tear in here. You're partially detached from the acetabular. The acetabular is this right here. The acetabular is the cup of the hip. The labrum is a little piece of fibrocartilage that creates a suction seal around the hip and helps distribute some of the force around the hip. You also have a pretty sizable bump here on the femoral neck. It's called a cam lesion. This, as the hip is flexed, drives up underneath the acetabulum and can pinch and tear that labrum. This model of our hip here, you have some strong ligaments around the hip, but this is really the focal point of what we're looking at here. So generally what we do is place a couple suture anchors, which are like high strength plastic screws that go into the bone and allow us to load the bone with suture and pass them around the labrum. However, your labrum looks like you may only have about that much tissue left. It's hard to tell off the MRI. Right. Sometimes we get in there and your labrum actually looks like you have great volume. If we're going the surgical route for treatment, recommend possible labral repair, possible reconstruction or an augmentation of your labrum using some of your own tissue from the IT band. And that's only if we see that this labrum is just threads of tissue that are remaining, that there's no real good tissue to repair. Otherwise, tendons here in the back of the hip joint look very normal here.
All right, guys, so we just got back. Obviously, you just saw in the video there that I'm gonna need to get surgery, but they said that if I don't get surgery right away, it's not gonna be the worst thing possible. Essentially, I have a little bit of time, and it's kind of a bummer because it's just like something I don't want to deal with. You know, we've created so much momentum. We've helped so many people on the channel, the Instagram, like kind of everywhere, the kids, the coaching, you know, everything. And my goal is to not stop, right? I'm not trying to let this hip thing get in the way. So what the doctors just said is that I could possibly be back at it in 6 months, but it's gonna take a lot of physical therapy. I'm gonna have to be on the grind, nutrition, everything's gotta go right so that I'm back at it. So ideally, I'm gonna spend this summer creating some extra content next year. You know, like everything's going so good. Everything's like vibing and like things are, you know, this is obviously a bump in the road. We're gonna get through this, but it's just like the constant pain, the like frustration from like the hip. Like honestly, you guys don't see behind the scenes. Like there's times where I'm riding POW with Sean where I gotta unstrap because literally stop and unstrap and because my hip hurts so bad. Or like skating when I'm pushing off with my back foot, like that hurts. So I get stuck on a catwalk and I push for like 5 to 10 steps. Like that really aggravates my hip. But what's crazy is I can drop from like 15 feet to flat. I can throw back nines. I can do all these other tricks that doesn't aggravate it, but it's riding POW and skating that hurts the most. So I don't know where I'm going with this. I just am a little lost. I just want to be keeping the content going, you know, the momentum going. I just want to be crushing, you know, the content so I can help people. And that's probably what I'm most frustrated about is like, I don't want to take time off. I don't want to take time off snowboarding because it's fun, you know, it's the vibe. I get like hang out with friends. It's like the identity. Also, I just don't want to be like letting you guys down because that's not sick. So I don't know. I'm gonna get out of here. All right. Thanks, guys. All right, after that little teaser, we're gonna dive into how the heck to hit medium jumps and then take them to the large line. So a couple big things that I love to talk about is your body position. So as you're going into the jump, it's very important that you're in a strong stacked position. So your shoulders, hips, and knees are over the board. So you feel really strong, right? So that you can handle any of the imperfections that you're gonna be going into in the jump. Now, when you start going into these larger and larger jumps, it's very, very important and critical that you're carving between the features. Now, you do have the ability to do something called a speed check. Now, a speed check allows you to go into a skidded turn so that you slow down. But a lot of the times, the big jump lines, you're gonna need to carve. If I were to go into this jump right down here and only did skidded turns, I would not accumulate enough speed to clear this successfully. What I would do is make 4 turns, and they're gonna be carve, carve, carve with a little speed check to dial that speed in just a little bit and then take off of the jump. Like I said, being able to have the ability to carve is vital for these jumps. So if you're looking for a sick little video on how to carve, check out the link in the description below. Now that you've understand what the run-in is, now we got to take off of the jump. Now it's very important that when you're jumping that you're doing this 2-footed pop. Now 2-footed pop essentially means that I'm pushing off of the jump with both of my feet at the same time, which allows me to go off of the jump even and let the jump naturally help me get in the air and stay in a balanced position and go down. If I ollie, I increase my chances of catapulting forward because I built so much pressure on the tail that I spring forward onto my head. Now, I've talked about this before, but it's very important that you're popping off of a jump, especially as we start increasing speed, which therefore increases the potential consequences. Now, once you're in the air, I like to bring my knees up. Ideally, I'm grabbing, but for the first time I'm hitting a big jump, or I'm just in the air. Sometimes I just bring my knees up and I'm just vibing. Sometimes I grab if I'm feeling extremely stable and ready for it. But your goal is to be able to grab your snowboard. So you have a couple different options, of course: nose grab, tail grab, indie, melon, mute, all sorts of really good options there for your grabs. And then when you're landing, you want to land in a position that allows you to handle the impact. You're going to be coming down from, I don't know, like a big drop, right? So as you're landing, you want to make sure that your knees are out so that your knees track over your toes. You're able to absorb the impact of the landing with both your knees, but you're absorbing the impact with your knees, not your waist. So if I'm just flexing over just like this, then it increases my chances of leaning forward, getting on a toe side edge, potentially turning into the woods, as well as putting my hands on the ground. So make sure you're able to keep your spine upright, absorb with your knees. So one of the biggest questions that you guys come up to me and ask me is, Tommy, how the heck do I dial in this speed, or how do I know the speed for hitting a jump for the first time? Now, there's a couple different tactics that I want to lead into, and I'll give you some ways to understand what it potentially could be. But before we dive into that, ultimately, the more repetition you have on jumps, the more you're able to build this internal speedometer, this internal feeling of, is this enough speed or not? Now, that does come from lots of repetition. The more I hit the jumps, the more I have experience both going way too big and way too short, so then I know what that perfect little speed is. Now what I tell my athletes all the time is, they ask me how many speed checks or how many turns into this jump. Now, ultimately, I might need to hit this jump at 25 miles an hour. But sometimes to achieve that 25 miles an hour, I may need to go absolutely straight. But the next run might be fast and it feels fast. I may have the opportunity to do 3 turns. And that's where that internal speedometer, developing that skill, is such a big deal, because every run may be different. A couple things that you can do is look at the tracks in the snow. A lot of people take a very similar path in. There's a bunch of carve marks. So I see that there's 4 carve marks in. Cool, I know that that's relatively speed. I'm gonna follow that. And then at the last second, I can either pop, absorb, or coast off. Now, the other thing you can do is watch somebody that is about your same body type and skill level going into the feature. That dude took 3 edge rolls, meaning like carve, 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 into the jump, and it looked like he popped a little bit, made it perfect. Well, then I want to try to mimic that. So yes, you can rely on other people, but at some point you got to rely on your ability to read the terrain, the feeling of the air hitting you, and being able to judge that. Because our very first run, there was no tracks here, but I was able to make it because I've hit it enough and I was able to feel the vibe. Now, an added little bonus Sean just mentioned, and no offense to my dude over here, it's not the wisest thing to follow skiers' lines because they move at such a different pace than us. And if they go dude, this turn, this turn, this turn, that may result in us knuckling or going way too big. So like I said, follow a snowboarder's line, somebody same ability, same body type, and just vibe. One thing that I've dealt with a lot in my snowboard career is just fear. I get freaked out sometimes about hitting big jumps. And it's not that I don't have the capabilities. I really feel like I do, but it's just like, man, I'm coming in hot. I'm going so fast. Can I handle the G's? Can I handle my speed? Can I handle the knuckle if I go? Am I judging her right? So a couple things that I do to overcome my own fear is rely on a buddy who's better than you. So my dude Sean here, he's such a freaking sender. This dude will send the largest jumps with no hesitation, but he won't spin as often as I do. So I'm super comfortable spinning like the large jump 1, large jump 2. I'm vibing that. But to hit the large jump straight air freaks me out. But we're such opposites, and that's why it works so well, because I can piggyback on him doing, like, following him into a jump if need be, but then I can also encourage him to spin, because I'll spin and be like, yo, it's fine, take this line, everything's good. So it ends up balancing out. So relying on a friend has really helped, like, help me overcome my fear. Also repetition. Again, if I can build my comfort level to this high, and then all I gotta do is push it 10% more, it's more manageable chunks of pushing it versus going from like really low and then trying to triple my comfort zone in, you know, in a second, and then all of a sudden I'm out of my zone. And the last thing that I do is I rely on my body positions, knowing that if I hold the strong body positions and I have the right mechanics, that's going to carry me through way more successfully. Now let's say that I'm going into the jump. Well, I'll make sure that I'm in a stacked position, my knees are out, I'm strong. As I'm going up the lip, either I'm gonna absorb or I'm gonna pop, depending on how I feel my speed is. And then let's say that I just absolutely blow it on the speed and I'm going way too slow. Well, then I'm still putting myself back in a strong position, so if I knuckle or deck, that I'm able to absorb the impact with both of my knees. I'm not leaning back out of fear, landing directly on my tailbone, breaking my tailbone. I'm not leaning so far back, I'm landing on my back. I'm not just trying to like air brake in the air and have no chance. So I want to rely on putting myself in that strong position, so that even if I'm knuckling, I'm increasing my chances of being okay by that position. So those are a couple things that I like to do to manage my own fear. Granted, at some point, you're gonna have to go for it. And that's probably the biggest challenge that I have, is like, I know I can do it. I know I can do it. And it takes a lot of courage to go beyond that point. And sometimes you just gotta go for it. And on that note, guys, I was hoping the weather was going to be absolutely spectacular. So I'm going to make a version 2.0 of this video, but I'm stoked to be able to hit these jumps, kind of give you guys a little bit of my thought process and mindset behind it. And then again, you guys are absolutely amazing. I appreciate all the support, all the likes, the comments, all the vibes, the good energy. You guys are amazing. So on that note, nothing but love. We out.